for the other sections and adding the 3-point checks at the end to the others?
The 3-point checks are already at the ends of the others, I think. And I don't feel super strongly about adding the charting. Whatever people want to do is fine.
I feel like adding the charting adds a level of complexity, and then we would have to decide if that's something we want to do on the other ones. And it's probably not necessary for a skills test.
I agree with Desi.
Yeah, me
You
too.
okay with?
I'm
Okay,
fine
great.
with that. Mhm.
Okay, so we'll add this 3-point check at this point. Anything else for this section? No? Okay, so we will move on. So this is where under section 3, we have options. So one of the options is to do the 1 hemostat simple single layer 2nd degree repair, or the other option is to do the 2 hemostat double layered 2nd degree repair. So they're written for both of them, but it's really a decision that as a committee, we need to decide at that skills exam what we want that student to demonstrate for knowledge. And I guess I have another question. Do you want them to do both, the single or the double?
In my mind, option A is all you need, because option B is based on putting in interrupteds. And if you can do a running stitch and tie a knot, you can do an interrupted. But it's not a hill I'm willing to die on for sure. So. I mean, the reality is once you get those deep interrupteds in the foam and then you put on your layer of more shallow running stitches, you can't see the interrupteds to assess them very well. So, I mean, we're basically trying to assess for things like she has an instrument in each hand, she's using correct techniques, her stitches are straight across, her knots are correct. They're the right spacing. Those kinds of things are what seems appropriate to be assessing on an exam, and those deep interrupteds aren't adding anything to that. So I think that the option A is sufficient, but again, I'm open.
Desi? Oops, Colleen.
I tend to agree.
So Colleen agrees. Desi?
I agree. I don't have strong feelings about it.
And Julia?
Yep, I'm with you.
Okay, so we will eliminate option B and go with option A. And so I will open up option A to look at. Did anyone have any comments about this section or corrections?
Let me pull up my notes real quick.
Okay.
Under J, where it says to repair this wound requires an anchor knot 1/2 to 1 centimeter above internal apex. It has an L at the front of apex.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Then this just includes the suturing itself, and it's not also the lidocaine administration, because
Yeah, that's separate.
We did that.
Yeah, we did that in the previous injection section.
okay.
Yeah, I don't see anything to change here.
Everybody good with that? Moving on?
Mhm.
Okay. It actually, the final piece here is the overall scoring form in regards to those sections. So
Dang.
basically it'll look differently because I'll give it to the forms, the individual that actually does our forms, and they'll add the HLO, standards to the form. So basically, it's just a verification of administering that examination, tells you that each section needs to be passed before moving forward with the full passage of the examination. And again, the 2-year period and signing below that they're certifying. So that's what this form is.
So do we want this form, and I'm not saying we do, to in any way track that they have taken the test previous times on dates and got a fail? Or do we only want to see that they have a pass?
Well, I mean, wouldn't we, since it is asking pass fail, wouldn't we send this anytime we administered a test? You know what I mean? Like, it is HLO wanting, like, if I administer, an IV test for someone and they fail, I would note the date of the exam, put fail in the pass fail box, fill it out and send it. And then if they retake it again a month later and they pass, fill it out again and resend it. Or
No. So HLO only wants to know that they pass this examination. So if they take that examination with you and they fail it, you'll keep those records on file for 2 years. So we just want to know that they pass this exam.
Gotcha. So like the forms we just went through, those are
Mhm.
the ones we keep on file for 2 years, and then we have
Yes.
kept whether they pass or fail. And then we only
Yes.
send this form to HLO when they have passed.
Yes,
So
so
then you
really
want
we need,
to say date passed or something.
exactly. So we'll change this up and make it date passed.
Yeah,
Okay.
or something like that. Because we have date taken, date passed, so that would in theory be the same date. So
Yeah.
Yeah, taken and passed. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll rework this form.
yeah, that's what I would say right there.
Thank you. Good point. Okay, I have just a couple of things going back. One of the gals looked through these documents for me, and she had a couple of questions in regards to, I'm going to go back to, and I apologize, I didn't have these ready when we were going through them. I'm going to go back to on 1.3, her question was one single firm swipe. Can we just say one firm swipe? Does it have to be single? Do we have to identify that
It's redundant.
okay? Just want to make sure because some things are very important to how, and then 1.6, if unopened previously, does previously really need to be there? And my
No.
question was, it's a multi-dose because it could have been open previously. However,
Then it wouldn't be capped if it was open previously. Well, that's not true. You can step that back on there.
Yeah. I don't think it hurts anything to have the previously there.
I do think it adds a little bit more clarity.
Yeah. We're not paying by the vowel or anything, so.
Instead of while covering and cover, pull out needle from skin and cover injection, or you're doing that while you're pulling it, you're holding it, right?
Yes. You
So
need
that's
while, not
fine.
and. That's correct.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, man.
One of the things under section 1, part 4, under 4.1b, air. One multi-dose vial medication, air. And I think her point was in the beginning, when we define medication or say there's other options for the word medication, we use expired or current medication and substitute such as water, but we don't include air there. So I'm going to add that to that list.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. And the reason why this is this way is if you're injecting into the foam with actual medication, the same foam you're going to use to do your suturing, it just creates a mess. So the idea was just to show that they're placing the injections in the right place and administering it at the right pace, not actually to create a giant soggy, foamy mess.
Would it be appropriate to say air for purposes of testing?
Yes, that's great.
Just thinking
Also,
about, go ahead.
I point out that we have one topical medicine listed as B in our supplies, but we don't address that anywhere.
I'm not even sure what that is.
I'm not sure why either. Because I mean, I guess you could use like a topical, like, like a topical lidocaine or something like that before doing infiltration, but we don't have them do
Yeah.
anything with it. It just says have them gather it. I vote we just
Let's
remove
get
it.
rid of it. Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's not necessary. Some people choose to use it, but
Or to dribble some of the medication there, but you can't dribble air. So
And aspirate slightly to be sure you're not in a blood vessel. Not just a
Sure.
vessel.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, most people aren't expecting a ship, so but
Yeah.
sure, we can add blood
Right.
vessel.
Okay.
What other kind of vessels are there other than ships? But
And then under section 2, part 1,
whoever did this reading, this is super helpful. So please thank them for us. I know it's their job, but still.
no, it was just a request because I'd written it so many times I needed a fresh eye.
Right.
Well, then definitely thank them
Right.
and get them a brownie or a cupcake or something.
Yeah. Let's see. Hang on, what section am I in?
You said section 2 something.
Section 2, part 1 on protective covers. Protective covers on tail ports intact.
Where I'm not seeing what you're talking about.
Oh, it's not up on the.
Am I missing it?
it says
Right
1.2 for perform check on IV, and then it's letter D.
Protective covers on tail ports intact. What is, I guess,
They verify that protective covers on tail ports are intact. But that's, we're checking to see that it's the appropriate type of solution, that none of the ones above it have a verb in front of it. So you're performing a check on the IV that the protective covers on the tail ports are intact. So instead of the verify, maybe add the word are before intact. It's a checklist. You see what I mean, Cynthia?
Yeah, yeah. I just wasn't sure if we were missing something.
No.
It's on it 1.3C too.
Yeah, same thing. Looks like your numbering in 1.3 got a little off there.
Oops. Okay,
Oopsie
thank you.
daisy.
All right, and I think. Oh, the other thing that she pointed out was in regards to client. It doesn't identify, no, it does identify mannequin. Oh, I guess sometimes I use mannequin arm, mannequin. I use mannequin in a lot of different ways. And so to just need to simplify mannequin. Yeah, so I'll make corrections as anywhere in these documents that I use mannequin.
All right,
Okay, sorry, I'm just running through this here.
doing
I
great.
think that's it.
Wow. I am so impressed with us.
Good job.
But then I
Okay,
get
that's,
excited when they approve my credit card purchase at New Seasons, you know. So I'm like, oh, I'm approved, yay. So
that's wonderful. Not very many edits on those documents at all. That is fabulous. So let's talk about the written exam. Our next piece. So based on the competencies and the content within the competencies needing to be tested on, I put together this blueprint, and then it's also, this is a candidate information bulletin, which is inclusive of a blueprint. And what this does is provides a lot of information. Basically, it says these are the domains within the blueprint that we are going to test on. And in, like, for example, within pharmacology, we talk about definitions, actions, agonists, tolerance, and interaction, so on and so forth, going down through each of those areas. And then in addition, we state under definitions, we're going to talk about drugs, legend drugs and devices, and then under.
I can't hear you, Cynthia. You're muted.
I'm not.
Oh, I can barely hear you. Is anybody else having that problem?
Yeah, me too. Mhm.
Same.
Can't hear either.
Okay, I'm going to leave and join again.
There you
You're
are.
back. You're
Am I
back.
back? Okay.
Yeah.
So the candidate information bulletin basically includes that blueprint, which are those domain areas. And then in addition to that, you sub that down to provide the specific content areas that the student needs to learn. So those need to be filled in. That piece has not been done. And
But the
then in
to learn, or that we're going to test them over?
test them over.
Okay.
Yes.
Those are two really different things.
Sorry about that. So we're
No
going
worries.
to, yes, we're going to test their knowledge in these specific areas, which are broken down based on those competencies. And in addition, the candidate information bulletin provides you the references that the questions are sourced from. And so the difference between this first part, which is the blueprint, it gives you those main categories and the subcategories. And then the going down before, it says you need to know this specific information within those categories.
Mhm.
So this portion of this is still being worked on and will be put together as we go through the competencies. And then we need to determine of these competencies, if we had one question in each, we have 41 questions. But I need to know from this committee, based on these competencies, for say pharmacology, what information do you want to know about action and effects? So if you could take out your competencies or look at your competencies.
Hold on a second, sweetie. I need to get some clarity here. This is Holly. I understand how this is set up, but for instance, placebo effects is its own list. And the only thing we have in the competencies about a placebo effects is what is a placebo effect?
Yes.
Whereas, so that's, I mean, that can definitely be a question. Maybe not. Maybe we don't think it's as important as knowing the actions and effects of all of the drugs in the formulary. There are many. So these are not evenly weighted domains, right? They're not evenly
no.
at all.
Yeah, no, I just put this together as an example and just put one in each of them.
Gotcha.
So that's what I need to know from the committee. So for example, in definitions, there are only two definitions. We'll just ask one question about a definition. Under pharmacology for action and effects, that's exactly what I need to know. Do you want to know the action and effects for each of those drugs?
What I would like to do, and I think you talked about having meetings with people to go through the competencies and make a mark on which ones I think are absolutely essential to be asked.
In those specific areas,
and then we'll
yes.
add it up and say how many of those are on actions and effects, how many of them are on tolerance, how many of them are on. That's how I would like to proceed, and have each of us look through the competencies and go, this is important, this is important, this is really important, this is less important, because we can't ask a question about absolutely everything. And then you said something at one point about you have a bank of questions and then not all of them get asked, but some of them can be marked as essential and are asked in every test. Am I remembering that, or is that somebody else that I'm working?
No, that's me. So what we do with multiple choice question tests is, and I'm going to bring it up and show you an example.
You're so prepared.
So this is the map of that blueprint, and basically we assign numbers to those questions, but it shows that we're going to ask, say in action and effects, say there's 4 categories within action and effects, but really you only really need to identify or know about 2 of them, or maybe they're all consistent, but really you only want to ask 2 questions. So you create a bank of questions. There could be 4 questions about action and effects, but we really only need to ask them 2 questions in that domain.
But can you make a mark that says, and every time you need to ask them about this one thing?
Yes, we can create a test that says out of action effects, this one question needs to be asked every time.
Okay.
And out of these 3 other questions, we can roll them in and only ask them one question. That'll be your 2 question bank.
So for me, and other people might be different, I don't feel ready to give you the information that you're requesting here, how many questions, because I need to look at the learning objectives again and in my mind go, essential, important to ask, but it's okay if it gets rolled and isn't asked on every test, and less essential to ask. And then that's going to give me my sense of how many questions in each thing. So that's how I need to proceed. Personally, I don't feel ready to tell you because, and I also need to look and see what's under, like, some things.
And we could be here for a few hours, Holly, if we did that.
Yeah,
We don't
no.
wanna do that.
I would be, well, I don't think that we should, as a group, sit and prioritize them. I think we should individually prioritize them
Agree.
and agree to send you send you what we think is appropriate so that you can compile it, and then we'll be able to, in March, look and go, oh, here's the consensus up to this point, and then start.
Mhm.
How does that sound as an approach to people?
Yeah, I like that approach. I have a clarifying question though. So I definitely agree with you, Holly. And so with that context of that, there are some questions that you want to make sure that we always ask, that are always there. Then is that like, could that be reflected in this blueprint by saying there are 2 questions on the exam, there are 2 questions in the bank? Meaning that it's always the same 2 questions based on that content, directed to that particular thing.
Or
Or
maybe
does,
So,
column that says required or something like that.
yeah, so how I would set this up under agonistics and antagonistics, if you want a section to have that identified as being asked all the time, hang on just a second. How we would do that is we would go, these will be the roll-in questions, and then this question will always be answered. So in the test and on the blueprint, it will always be about this domain, but we will always be, it will always be identified in the setup and the makeup of the exam, how I tell it to ask those questions. So if
Gotcha.
you identify question this will always be asked, it will be under that AA domain. And then if you want the bank of the other questions to be rolled in, it'll have a different identifier number. So we
So it would
can,
essentially be number of questions on the exam would be 1, number of questions in the bank is 1. So it's always choosing the same.
yeah, that's what
question.
I'm kind of thinking. That's how I
yes,
was gonna say
for
it.
that specific, yes, for that specific question in that category you want asked. And then the other ones will roll in
Okay, great.
a different category. Exactly. Even though they're always going to be under that domain, behind the scenes is what we tell it we want it to do.
So if we can get you before some date that you tell us what you need it by, our preferences, our assessment of what is essential has to be asked on every test, what is important to be asked on a rotating basis, and what we can live without having on the test, given that we can't ask everything. And then we give that to you, and you can create a document that is the list of what the competencies are that are essential and important, and we can go over that. And then you could take that and maybe work on formatting it into the test questions themselves for us to look at maybe in April.
Yes.
Is it something like that might work? Because I
So
know
what-
it has to be multiple choice. It can't be open-ended or essay or interpretive dance or anything like that. So
what I can do, so I had sent an email a little over a month ago requesting this information be sent, but that didn't work out. And so you are correct, Holly. What I need to do is I need to set up individual appointments with each of the committee members. And I need to have all of that information approximately by the 15th of March in order to prepare that information and then send it to the full committee for them to look at. So I need to meet with each of you individually before March 15th and get that information.
and that'd be a motivator to get it looked at.
Yeah.
Clever you.
So, well, and unfortunately, if I can't get all of the information from all of the committee members, if at least if I could get the information from a quorum of the committee members, we can move forward.
Yeah.
So, and then, so we'll just do that. We will make sure that I meet with all of the committee members before March 15th. We will send the information to you in a summary about what we've discussed here regarding that, those content areas and their importance, how they fall within, and then we will discuss it at our March 30th meeting.
So once this written test is done, what's left for us to do? Are we going to talk about examiner qualifications, or what's left?
So the examiner qualifications, that actually the written examination is going to be on Workday, and it will be an open book test, and they will have unlimited time, and they will be able to take that through that internet-based platform. And so there won't be a qualification for an individual to give that test unless you do not want that test open book out on Workday, and you want it to be a secure exam where they have to come into the office and take it.
I was thinking more of the skills exam.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about the written.
No, I understand how you could think that, because that's what we're looking at.
Okay.
But I was
So
just trying to think of what are other things we might have to do once we get this written test done.
So in regards to the qualifiers for the skills of exam, we've already talked about that in our previous meeting, and those actually have to be identified in rule. And so one of the things that we determined is that if it was administered at a pre-accredited or MEC-accredited school, it could be given at that location. However, if it was through a preceptor through the PEP process, then it could not be administered by the same individual. So we did identify that, and that will be put out in rule.
But are we saying they have to be a CPM, an LDM, licensed in their states? Some states don't have licensing. Could they be a paramedic? Could they be an RN? Do we have those kinds of criteria established?
Yes, we did list that out as well, Holly.
Okay, I missed one meeting, and that was probably the one where that was discussed.
It's been a long time ago since we have discussed that.
Yeah.
So
So that isn't an item that we need to do because we've already done that. Is there any, I mean, I guess I'm thinking about this in terms of, could we maybe be done in April or even maybe May? Because we don't have anything left to do once we get this written exam done.
once we get this blueprint set up and the candidate information bulletin, then all we need to do is start writing those test questions out of the sources that we have already purchased in the office that are listed on this candidate information bulletin. In just a second. And so a lot of work will be being done behind the scenes just as soon as you guys define what you want us to do in regards to this written examination. Brandon Chastain, come on over, Brandon. I want y'all to know that I have gotten help. This is Brandon, and he is now working at the health licensing office, and he will be working with me to source the questions that I will write for those content areas. And so we will be doing a lot of the work behind the scenes for you. And so hopefully, yes, Holly, we will have that done in April. Did you want to introduce yourself, Brandon, and just no? Okay. So
We
Brandon.
can't see you, Brandon.
Huh?
We couldn't see Brandon. He wasn't in the screen.
I can see him, but he's small.
Ah, okay.
Hi, Brandon.
Hello,
Yes,
nice to meet you all.
I'm super excited to have Brandon here, and he's going to help me do a lot of the things in my job that I need help with to be able to move forward a little bit more quickly, so we're not waiting 2 years to get changes in these DEM skills and competencies and all that good stuff. So
That's great news. Congratulations on having a helper.
So once we get this final written examination, everything fleshed out with those skills examination, it will go before the board. They will vote on that. I will be working with Sammy Patnode, the policy analyst, to put all of the information that we worked on, that criteria in regards to individuals qualified to administer that examination. That will all go through that rule process.
So Colleen, the end is in sight.
Colleen, you're
I
on
wanted-
mute.
Sorry, you guys, I got a client on the phone. I didn't think that I could do all of this, but I had to do that.
No, that's okay.
No worries.
What was, okay, what is the question? I'm sorry.
No, there's an insight, Colleen.
There's an end in sight. Excellent.
Yeah.
Good to know.
All right, so next steps moving forward, then we will make all the changes to the documents that we talked about. And then I will contact each of you individually to schedule those appointments. And then once we have finalized these documents, I will then again send them to you to look at again and really go over them.
And Corinthia, I just wanted to tell you, sorry for not responding to that email. I was like, what email? And I looked. You very clearly asked us to look over this stuff and get back to you, highlighted it beautifully. And I have no memory of this email, and I apologize.
Don't worry about it, Desi. Nobody else responded either. I forgive all of you.
Yeah, you did a great job. It's very clear.
Oh, well, thank you very much. And, we're all busy and we have a lot to do. And, we weren't quite there yet anyway. And so, otherwise, believe me, I would have been calling you, each and
Yeah.
every one of you, which now I'm going to do.
Which now
So-
you're going to do.
Yes. So, great. Well, what a great meeting. And we are done way sooner than I thought we would be, because I didn't know for sure if you wanted to go through all those competencies and create this blueprint makeup. So, save us all a lot of time today, but we really did get a lot done. And thank you guys for your input and going over all of that.
Thanks, Cynthia, for plugging away at this.
Yes, thank you.
This approach, Corinthia, will in the long run will save time taking this approach rather than trying to go through and make guesses and then later have to come back and go, no, that's not right. And I think this will be more efficient and ultimately will save us time, not just today, but in the long run too.
In the long run.
I appreciate your flexibility and willingness to do that. And I'm feeling really proud of how much has been accomplished so far and very appreciative of you and all your hard work, because
I know it doesn't seem like so much gets done, and then Cynthia comes up with these amazing documents, and you're like, "Dang, look at that! We did something." So,
Well, thank you all for your input. All of you have provided a lot of input, and I just want to thank you too, Holly, because when I have questions, I know you're all really busy, and I pick up that phone and call Holly all the time, and she really has been helpful in drafting that skills documentation for you guys to be able to look at, because as you all know, I am not a DEM. I am a typer and a putter together, so. Anyway.
And the way you format the document, wow, I could never do it.
Well,
All
thank
right.
you guys very much.
bye.
Thank you.
We'll see. Oh, I got to close the meeting, and then we will see you on March 30th. So one other thing. Hang on. We have to get feedback from the interested parties here. Does anyone, public comment, excuse me, does anyone on the phone have public comment?
Just thank you. This is Desiree. That seems like a lot of work you guys are getting done. I was just wanting to kind of get a little bit more familiar with what was going on exactly. And so this has been enlightening, but also clear that it's been a huge amount of work.
Well, thank you very much. And yes, thank you for your input. And we are definitely excited to move forward with this process and getting this finalized.
Yeah, great.
Well, thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Okay, I am going to adjourn the meeting. The Board of Direct Entry Midwifery, Legend, Drugs and Devices Continuing Education Committee meeting is adjourned at 12:04 p.m. on February 2nd, 2023. Thank you all for all of you do, and I will be in touch